Why can't farmers be unemployed? Because they can be in any field.
Howdy, my name is Dan.
Hi everybody, my name is Floyd Velasquez.
My name is Rudolph Moses De Silva, Rudolph De Silva.
Hi, I'm Maria Goldberg.
Hi, I'm Jake Goldberg and I'm 13 years old.
My name is Juan Carlos Guardado.
Hello everyone, my name is Hugh Lee.
Hi, my name is David McClinton.
My name is Jimmy Guerrero.
I am a community organizer in Chispa, Nevada. So I started as a volunteer and now I am collaborating with them as a community organizer. Chispa creates awareness in our community about the environmental problems. We are focused especially in color, low income, and Latinx community.
And we're here at Vegas Roots Community Garden, and we're from the Star Trek fan group, the USS Windrunner. And we've been with the USS Windrunner just a few months.
And we've been to this community garden for a month.
I'm a volunteer for Climate Action Nevada. I was born and raised here in Las Vegas Valley, and I grew up in the Southwest Valley for most of my entire life. I'm a Filipino American and I'm part of the API community.
I am a volunteer here at Vegas Roots. I work as a disease investigator with the Southern Nevada Health District. I've been working with Vegas Roots since I think about March. I know we planted a lot of the plants out here. It was my first day, and now we're kind of reaping the rewards.
I'm president and founder of the Nevada Esports Education League, which is a nonprofit. We try to bridge the gaps of esports and educations through video gaming. And I have been born and raised here in Nevada as well. I grew up all the way on east side of Las Vegas, east side, west side. And then I transferred all the way over into the Chinatown district. And now I'm in Summerlin, so literally right to the left.
Okay, so I grew up before you guys were born. I grew up in Jacksonville, North Carolina when Jimmy Carter was president. So you probably were not even, you were in the plans in the universe somewhere. Being involved with Chispa, Nevada for the last 8 months, and to my friend Juan Carlos Guardado, with both professionals in the insurance industry. I spent 20 years in the banking industry, in investments, loans, you name it.
I do not represent any official organizations. I grew up here in Las Vegas. I particularly grew up in North Las Vegas. I don't know if you guys know where the Jerry's Nugget is. Well, growing up, it was primarily an African-American community, but as the years went on, it became more of an immigrant community where you'd have more and more primarily Hispanic families moving in. My family actually ended up being one of those immigrant communities moving into the Jerry's Nugget neighborhood.
I'm the agricultural engineer for Vegas Roots Community Garden. I am the CEO of the Green Samaritan Group, and I also captained the USS Windrunner, a Star Trek fan group. I've been with Vegas Roots for a little over a year and a half now. I've been captain of the USS Windrunner for the last 7-8 months. Recently, I just started my own nonprofit called the Green Samaritan Group, so I am fairly new to being a CEO.
This climate change is not something out of Hollywood that they're doing to sell more movies. This thing affects our everyday lives. And right now we're in code red, according to the United Nations report. The weather is not going to get any better. So who is affected? Us common day folks around the world, regardless of whether with the political arena, the political degree that one person can be. Weather doesn't have no politics. It's just what it is.
We're looking into Las Vegas's ozone pollution. The annual State of the Air report shows the air quality in southern Nevada ranks among the most polluted in the country, coming in at number 12 for ozone pollution.
I want to say that I'm originally from El Salvador, and when I lived in El Salvador, I never had any trouble with my respiration, with the breathing problems. So when I came here to Las Vegas, Nevada, I remember I started to feel troubles with my respiration. So at that time, I decided to go to see the doctor. And the doctor asked me if, when I lived in El Salvador, I had the same symptoms. And I said, no, doctor, I haven't had that symptoms in El Salvador. So, and the doctor told me that here in Nevada, we breathe polluted air.
We had a lot of air quality that wasn't exactly at the right quality for little kids as well to be outside in. And just recently, we've had a couple of issues with that right now. And as someone who grew up with asthma as well, it was very difficult for me to literally be outside.
When you have inclement weather, at this time we have a fireworks in California, and that is very dangerous for your bronchioles.
Well, in Las Vegas, people plant all kinds of seeds that do not belong to the beautiful desert of Mojave. And that's what we breathe. That's what we have allergies year after year, because they plant seeds from trees that do not belong in these desert areas, maybe in California.
A lot of the environment has literally physically changed. It's also been new plant life here. When I was very little, I had really, really strong allergies to pollen. And what's a very surprising thing was when I learned when I was 10, was that a lot of the trees and wildlife here aren't originally from here. They're actually either blown from the state nearby, which is Arizona, Utah, or even California sometimes. And on top of that, a lot of the trees and wildlife have been planted from across East Side as well. And being someone who's a native here and isn't used to those type of plants and wildlife and trees, yeah, it was really strong and affected my little kid life of going outside for recess for years on out.
So we have those problems here. That's why we have having asthma or respiratory problems. We just learn to live with it in Nevada. And whatever happens in California, it hits us because they have the mountains. So it falls into the desert areas, and guess what? We're the recipients of all that pollution.
A lot of the stuff that I would just see, the pollution, weather, public transportation, I thought was normal growing up.
I guess this goes to show how there are issues that you're impacted by that you don't know are environmental issues that actually are.
Climate change and its effect on hurricanes.
Scientists think the rising sea level is causing more intense storms that do more damage.
And I never knew how serious the environmental problem was until Hurricane Florence hit the house where I grew up in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And it was just a big loss to my family.
I got the opportunity to work in the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office. And what was interesting, at least at the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office, is you got a lot of on-the-ground insight of how Hurricane Katrina and a lot of tragedies that happen to families economically in that time still affects families today over there.
So I grew up in Jacksonville, North Carolina, in the South, went to school, high school, college, and we had our hurricanes, we had our problems, storms, tornadoes. Guess what? Hurricane Florence hit my parents' house, the house where I grew up, and it totally devastated the area. To make the story short, according to the Journal of Science, the depth and the fury and the impact of Hurricane Florence was so devastated. Practically, my parents spent $40,000 trying to rehab that house, and it still is not up to code. So it really hit home. At that point, it wasn't just CNN News, Fox News. I don't care if you're left, right, in the middle. It hits you home. It hits you home. So, and when I see that, and according to the United Nations report, it's not going to get any better. It's going to take generations for whatever the last 100 years has been done to the environment.
The latest storms brought unwanted trash across the valley. The Regional Flood Control District says debris is often trapped in channels, sometimes trapping the water as well.
The USS Windrunner has what we call the 5-a-day initiative, where we're asking people to pick up 5 pieces of trash every day of the week to help clean up our environment, right? If we pick up 5 pieces of trash every day, which is so easy to do, that is 35 pieces of trash a week, which adds up to over 1,800 pieces of trash annually that you save from going into the gutters, clogging our drains, and when it rains, it causes floods. Public Works will have to come out, clean out the drains. And it costs our city money, right? So this is resources this is something that we can do on an individual level that can have a collective impact that can beautify our city, at the same time save our city money.
Growing up, the parks were just, for lack of a better word, they were kind of trashy. And a lot of times kids, like, they just didn't want to go and hang out at these parks because they just looked nasty. Like, who wants to go hang out at a nasty park?
I'm gonna add to that real quick, David. Have you ever heard about the Adopt a Road program? Have you ever seen those signs like on the highway? It's like, I used to do that back home. You know, that's just, kind of guarantees that X kind of stretch of road is going to be picked up, 4 times a year. I mean, I know the first time that I picked up the road that I grew up on, we had like 7 bags of trash.
Isn't it crazy?
We didn't even think it was that dirty, but whenever you get walking and you're just looking real close, not driving, you can really pick up just a ton of stuff you didn't even know was there.
It literally gets you to pay attention to your environment, right? We're so used to seeing trash and we just think it's part of nature. But when you stop and just do what you said, just like pay attention, it's like, wow, that really shouldn't be there. Let me pick that up. And just doing that, 5 pieces of trash. I mean, you walk close to a Starbucks, literally from the parking lot to the door, you're gonna pick up at least 15 pieces. You're gonna see at least 15 pieces of trash, right? And just pick up 5 and just throw them to the trash can. And that just helps everyone. When other people see you do it, it encourages them to do it too.
To start bringing a trash bag out on like the trail with me, because sometimes I will sometimes I'll be out on the trail and like even in a desolate area, there'll still be bottles left behind or cigarette butts left behind or whatever. So I think I'm gonna start maybe just bringing a bag out with me just to kind of pick up some stuff, at least on the way out.
Yes.
Because you think if any place is gonna be beautiful, you would think that it would be a nice isolated trail, away from everybody, and somehow that is still
filled with trash.
Yes, filled with trash. So it's just like we can't really get away from it anywhere. So we got to start somehow. Got to start small.
Food insecurity is still a pressing issue here in southern Nevada. 3 Square, the only food bank in the region, is distributing up to 5.5 million pounds of food each month, over 1 million pounds more than in May of 2019.
We also have a farm, which is behind the community garden, that we grow food for the community. We're here fighting food insecurities.
And the only time I really remember vegetables is when she had the days off to make Filipino food, which was like the only time I remember vegetables in my life as a kid. I'm surrounded by a lot of fast food chains around my house. On either side of me, there's like a Jack in the Box, or there's definitely McDonald's, a couple of them around me. And you'd have to drive a little farther to find something more of a healthier option.
In this in particular area off of Tonopah and Bonanza is literally a food desert. I do not have enough fingers to count the number of fast food restaurants within a mile of our garden. But I could not tell you where is the closest Smith's, Albertsons, Vons, or grocery store where you can buy fresh produce.
It wasn't until I was in middle school when I found out what a Whole Foods was, and that like my cousin introduced me like organic produce and things like that. And he's like, there's things that are just made out of nature that I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. Last semester, I watched a whole TED Talk for class about food deserts and realizing that I didn't know that I was in one or that I was surrounded by that. And no one really goes to speak about that because they're just so used to fast food chains around you because it's convenient and it's affordable and it's cheap. And not many know that they're impacted by that unless they know what exactly a food desert is.
So we actually grow food for the community. So people can actually come here, purchase fresh eggs, fresh vegetables, things that we grow, and we're 100% organic. Here's a couple of facts. In America, we waste 80 billion tons of food annually. In Las Vegas, Las Vegas represents 48% of all food waste in America. If we can reduce that number by just 10%, we can literally make enough soil to turn this barren desert into a lush food jungle. And it starts by just saving your food scraps, composting at home. If you can't compost it, bring it here. We are listed on Make Soil site on makesoil.org. Or wherever you are, you can go to makesoil.org and find an active soil site where you can take your compost material to be broken down in the soil.
Growing up, I'm the youngest of 3 siblings, and I was like, when I grew up, I was raised by a single mother who was always working. So oftentimes when she came home, it was either a frozen meal that we got from the grocery store earlier that week, or it was something fast that she was able to get along the way. And my mother still doesn't drive, so a lot of times she's just busing back and forth to work.
We do want to take a deeper look at what these scorching hot temperatures mean, what the heat actually does to your body.
I'm going to talk about public transportation from personal experience that I had when I was a kid growing up, because we didn't have efficient cars growing up, so me and my siblings would have to take the bus a lot. But the biggest pet peeve I've always had is the fact that when you go to like areas like Aliante, the better parts of Henderson, you look at Summerlin, you see these bus stops that are like, they're built big, beautiful, they have the shade covering. Some of them even have like little water things on them to help keep people cool. But then you come to like East Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, like specifically like the low income areas of North Las Vegas, it's not uncommon to see bus stops with literally no shade, not even a bench. It's just a post with a sign on it that says bus stop on it. And then you think to yourself like, oh man, you're the areas where they don't provide like the nice structures for the public transportation, those are the areas where people actually use the bus as a necessity.
Right, there are resources and then there are alternatives, but they're not at a cost that is made available to all communities who deserve it and who really need it. And I'll always see like alternatives that are like to toothpaste or to just different kinds of things that are not at a cost that I can easily afford every single time I do it.
You know, you see your mother or father struggling to bring in income, and that has an impact on, you know, paying the electric bill, which here in Vegas is a big deal, because if you don't pay the electric bill in the summertime, the power goes out and you're just frying all day long. You have to like kind of put rations on how much AC you use, which has a direct impact on your ability to study. Like, you're supposed to have AC when you study. It helps you focus better. And then I was like, oh man, it really does work.
But too many people believe that like being wealthy and healthy are like, those are synonymous things, and you can't have them like together, and they believe they're the same thing, but you can have them without each other. You don't have to necessarily be like wealthy to be healthy. And although it seems that way when you go to the grocery stores and you see like the prices of the produce, the prices of like these eco-friendly alternatives, it may seem that way.
My dad, he would have health problems. Sometimes he would take the bus, and he would have to be, because he had heart conditions and whatnot. And it's not just my dad. There's a lot of people who live in these neighborhoods that have health issues where extreme heat is a problem, you know? And they tend to be people who have car problems. They can't afford cars. They can't afford mechanics to fix their cars. Things that people like I think more affluent people take for granted every day. So something as small as having a shade at a bus stop goes a long way in terms of their health, public health in general.
These issues affect us while we're young, and they last long term, literally. And if we don't start helping out and fixing the problems now, we're definitely gonna see it from generations and generations to pass.
Now got some good news for you. For the first time since 2015, Nevada is no longer ranked last in public education. Now Nevada is now next to last in 50th place, just before New Mexico.
I went to CSN mainly because I couldn't afford to go to UNLV coming out of high school, and there were a lot of academic programs that would have, looking back on it, which probably would have helped me fund my education, but I didn't know about it because the school I went to didn't advertise those opportunities as efficiently as schools like, because I knew people who went to Bishop Gorman, which is a more affluent school, Silverado, their schools actually advertised academic opportunities that the teachers and the administration believe in promoting education like that. It has an impact on the students. The students will believe also, oh man, maybe I should get an education, it'll better my life. That wasn't there at Rancho.
But coming from the esports background, I think the biggest thing that I've seen in education-wise is the lack of technology, especially between college students. When students can't get onto their web portal, they can't do their homework online, they find other resources, and when those resources shut down, which we've seen last year in 2020, like the libraries and all that being shut down, students just had to go out of their way to just try to get Wi-Fi somewhere else. I think we've all seen the Twitter photo of the kids standing outside Taco Bell trying to use their Wi-Fi. And that's the thing, like a lot of the education systems we have right now are trying their best to get everyone the technology they need, but sometimes it's not just getting them their computers or their Wi-Fi.
My area, education is actually not that prioritized because a lot of us are, again, like low income, children of immigrants. And what tends to happen is you have parents that they can't get adequate employment. So you have kids who, they'll drop out of school, a lot of them, to help support their parents. So the education becomes kind of like a second priority to them.
Assemblywoman Torres tell me stories, literally teachers coming in to complain to the teacher, just saying, hey, your stuff is online. I'm not giving them online work. I'm giving them books to send home. Why are you doing this? You're ruining the structure of teaching. And then that's the thing. You're trying your best to get all of the students what they need. And I think if we can solve those gaps of just getting some technology stuff in place, we would have a equal-friendly world. And on top of that, a really good diverse youth.
And the rush is on to get bills signed into law. Here's a breakdown of the major bills that made it through today and are still on the table.
One is the AB 349 bill in the last legislative session. So I want to tell you that as a Chispa, Nevada, we were supporting this policy and finally was approved. So this policy basically comes to regulate the gas emission control on the classic vehicles. So because remember, the cars emission are I'm gonna say one of the greatest components that causes pollution here in Nevada. So I think across the United States. And we have to recognize this is a one victory because we are make sure that the classic cars right now are not producing any more pollution in our street. But in the other side, this was a way to stop these loopholes.
Being born and raised in Las Vegas, a lot of the environment has literally physically changed, whether that be new buildings and whether that be like a couple new parks that are being built, which is cool.
One thing I do want to give props to the city of North Las Vegas for is they've gone a long ways in developing the parks in our area. But I think in recent years, I've seen that the city in this area, at least that I live in, they've renovated their parks. Their parks are they're pretty nice. I got to give credit where credit is due in that sense.
It's a lot of technology being cleaner. That's one. Definitely, we have solar panels here in Las Vegas, and we passed a couple good bills in the legislature to keep up green energy renewal, but it's continuing that with other power and outlet sources to fill up some tech industry stuff.
In the news, I saw that Governor Sisolak visited the solar panel project, the Catholic Charities of Nevada. And I was just looking into it more and more because when I saw it, it just looked like any old picture of a solar panel, but it was just the whole roof was covered in solar panels. And I've never really heard of that charity before. And it's just a kind of a charity that focuses on helping people around the community, homeless, soup kitchens, and just providing many resources like that. And having them be able to have those solar panels that have them save money that they can use elsewhere. to continue to give back to the community?
I also worked for the 2021 legislature, and there was a lot of resources and bills that passed, literally that helped out almost in every sector, whether that be bettering food quality with chickens, whether that be like getting everyone another passage to vote, which is cool, which we done for AB, I think it was 126 for online voting for those who are disabled and overseas, or whether that be helping the education system with giving ELL students more options and more funding. I think the biggest impact that I've seen that's helped the community within the bills, but it was the public option bill. And basically that bill literally helped out communities of those impoverished and those who are in the middle class to just get a healthier option for healthcare. And health goes a long way. I mean, not just food-wise or nutritious-wise or even environment that you're living in, but taking care of yourself and your body is something that takes care of everyone else around your world. So I think that's the best environment to live in, a healthy one. You guys get it?
To share some tips to help yourself, help our environment.
Vegas Roots opened up 11 years ago in March 2010. At the time, it was the only community-based garden in Southern Nevada. Now we are one of several. The idea is that people come out, they rent our plots, and they try and grow food. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not. It really depends on your level of dedication, your willingness to put your hands in the soil and get a little dirty.
So one of the things I really like about being here at the garden is it's something that Jake and I do together, so we get some family time, and it instills a sense of doing something for someone other than yourself, and improving the community and thinking about the world and how we want to lead it.
Get involved, if you're too shy or whatever, I think if you're too shy, this is the perfect place to be, you know what I mean? You get to be alone and work out in the garden, you know what I mean? You don't have to mess with anybody else. And I just came on Saturdays, you can come on a Saturday. Yeah, it's just super easy to get involved, just come every Saturday to see what David's got going on, and super easy to get involved.
Intimidated, if you feel like you don't know enough about gardening to come anyway, because you'll learn and they'll tell you what to do. You don't have to come in some expert gardener knowing exactly how to do everything. It's just having extra hands, right? And all working together.
So, look, it takes community to build community. You gotta be a part of community to build a community. However, if you want to do something at home, you can compost at home. Composting at home isn't expensive. You don't need buy a big drum that costs hundreds of dollars or something like that. You can literally get 2 5-gallon buckets from Lowe's or Home Depot and drill holes in them and just start throwing your material in there. You can throw your food scraps, your coffee grounds, your eggshells, and then you want to probably get the tree foliage that's fallen to the ground, is dry. Scoop that stuff up because that can go into the gutters as well and cause problems. But you can take that stuff and throw it into your compost bin and start breaking it down, turn it daily or turn it weekly, and start making your soil at home. And you can do that and start growing food. But before you start growing food, you should start making your own soil. Don't trust bag soil.
A lot of the times people feel like they can't help, but they can't reach out because they don't have the resources. At least they don't know there's resources around their community that they can contribute to, or they're not readily available to them, or they don't have access or transportation or things like that. They're not always to leave their home, and they want to make an impact on where they are at the moment, whether that's laying in their bed or in another country or another state. And I think the best way is just to stay informed about local issues. I don't consider myself some kind of environmental guru or some kind of genius or things like that. And it's still something that I'm learning and I continue to learn about. And I think the best way, in any little way possible, a good small step, which is actually a big one, is to just be knowledgeable about issues, at the very least in your community, if not the whole entire country and the world.
That's the informative answer. Sorry, I had to do that. But that's a really good answer, because being informed and also letting others know is something top-notch.
Because I went to a Presbyterian college. If anything that taught me was to research, and thank God for Google, because in my times you had to go to the library and actually read hundreds of books, magazines, periodicals. The young people, the millennials, I envy the heck out of them, although they didn't learn how to dance disco like I did.
Just taking that initiative to clean up, right? And that puts you involved. It gets you in touch with your environment. And then you realize, well, I'm going to take responsibility for it. And that's what I'm asking people to do. Take responsibility and be part of the solution. We all have to think about how we want to leave this planet.
What I also would suggest too is that people should also organize or join organizations such as Nevada Climate Action, which is one of the best organizations to get involved in if you care about the climate and if you just care about trying to get your community more cleaner. But organizing is something that it's very simple. You could either be with a group. So just recently, I got shaving cream pied in the face, all for a charity stream. The Nevada Esports Education League also does charity streams 100%. You can join the Nevada Esports Education League, which is a nonprofit again, to help stream video games and just do what you can or do what you do to help out other organizations and even help out their environment.
I think the better way is like they can reach out to us, and we can schedule a one-on-one, and we can explain them in detail, what the Chispa Nevada do, and probably analyze what is the better way they can to contribute. Not only with Chispa Nevada, with the community for sure. I think the contribution that the community can make to all of us is helping us, I'm gonna say, to move petition where we are running any particular campaign, because remember that this is a work that we do for ourselves and for our community.
And one of the things that I can see the young people doing, really, neighbors, peer-to-peers, is leveraging the technological advances, things like Facebook, social media, Zoom, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. It seems like they can move masses. The only way to change things is through community involvement. And where's community involvement? Well, it's in the arena of power. Where's the arena of power? Government, local, state, federal, Washington. And if the individual doesn't communicate with the other individuals and leveraging the technology, which is social media, that can move literally thousands of people at an instant, millions of people, then nothing happens. So I can see Chispa Nevada relies on that, on peer-to-peer involvement, on educational root involvement, educational awareness.
Those are the best ways to help better the community and to help gather your community up to do change in the world.
Going to city council meetings is one big way, being aware of what's going on in the community. They have these meetings every week. Another thing is paying attention to local elections, because a lot of people, when they think elections, they think, oh, the president of the United States, federal Congress, federal Senate. But a lot of the stuff that happens in our communities happens at state assemblymen, state senate, these smaller local elections. Pay attention to what these people stand for and hold them accountable. If you feel that they're doing something that's shady or just not right, write a letter to them.
You're in a perfect spot, especially in Nevada, to help engage in the community and advocate for what you believe in. Because anyone can do that. It's just finding a space for it.
Now it's time to leverage this power in Washington right now is on our side. So we had to leverage. We have 2 years to leverage because we don't know what's going to happen after the midterm election. So this is the best opportunity to be active.
I, as a young individual, was still navigating his way into the community and finding ways to contribute and even just be involved in different spaces I'm interested in, like the political sphere and things like that. I kind of want to just commend you for doing this and hosting your own event and being a part of a way to engage everyone in different sectors of different lifestyles and walks of life and experiences into one specific bubble to talk about issues that, whether people understand or not, are impacting themselves or everybody around them. And this opportunity and what you're providing here for everyone is a great outline.
Thank you so much for this interview, and I really appreciate that.
And if we can have maybe a copy of the video, that would be great. So we can show it to our grandkids someday, what we did on beautiful Desert of Mojave in the city of the 60 million tourists that come and visit the casinos, Las Vegas, Nevada.